no one can describe. So that part of me be like, that would have been nice to experience that again. But that and being spoiled as a pregnant person, because people want to feed you, and I love to eat when I was pregnant. Oh, I love to eat. That was the weight of my whole heart. I remember crying one day because we went and got some hot dogs, and I don't like mustard on my hot dog. And they put mustard all over my hot dog, and I cried. And Robert was like, "Are you kidding me?" And I was like, "I can't believe they ruined my hot dog." He said, "Baby, we can rinse it off. There's buns," because they had just had a barbecue. He's like, "There's hot dog buns in the kitchen." I was like, "Nope." I marched my big 8 months pregnant butt all the way back up to the Maxwell Street, and he was livid because I was
I
like,
bet
"Ooh,
all
they messed up
extra
my hot
pregnant.
dog." Girl, you can't mess with a pregnant person and their food. You just can't do that.
All
That hurts your
extra
soul.
pregnant.
Extra pregnant. I was
Extra
probably
pregnant.
about 8 months, and then it was even worse because I was on bed rest most of the time for my daughter, for Naraya. I was on bed rest most of my pregnancy with her, so it was even worse because I ain't had no business running and toting no big belly, no place, but
Nowhere.
no place at all. But they messed up my hot dog. You don't mess with a pregnant girl and her food. You just don't. That hurts your soul. Nothing feels that way. But we have people coming in already. We already have
Hey,
8 people
hey,
watching us.
y'all.
Hey guys, thank you
Welcome,
for coming.
welcome.
Welcome. We're gonna give it just another minute here before we get up and going. I know I've been anxious for days about this whole election thing, and then just anxious even now, just steady watching CNN and trying to see what's going on. And we probably won't have a definitive decision for a few days, especially now because it's being contested by someone. I'm not, I said I'm not
Mm-mm.
gonna give my energy. I'm not, no, I'm gonna reserve
I
my
didn't do
energy
it.
for myself. But I just felt like it was important to have this conversation because I don't know about you. I'm seeing so much in my timeline from my friends. I'm seeing so much anger. I'm seeing so much speaking out against voting in the first place. I'm seeing all these differences of opinions, and I had just made it up in my mind this week. I was like, whatever is meant will happen. It will be. I can't control. I am not in control, and I just need to just chill and just preserve my strength for whatever battles, whether mentally, emotionally, in the community, etc., that I may have to, have the fortitude for. And I can't do that if I'm angry, if I'm filled with all of these emotions about this election. So that was what I promised myself for this week. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't have some feelings. So I'm sure you have some too.
I
But
definitely do.
I know you
I
do. You said, "Oh, girl, I got a bunch of points."
definitely
I was like,
do.
"Ooh, she finna lay it
Yeah.
in."
I definitely do. And the thing is that this the same thing. I get on Facebook and so many people have so much to say about this election. So many people are upset. So many people are like, what do we do? Like, really pins and needles waiting for the results. But see, for me, and I get that that's some people like you said yourself, like you check in, you can't get away from it. But for me, I feel like it does not matter who's in office. And it definitely does matter just in general. But for me, when I look at it, no matter who's in office, I know I'm gonna be good. I know the energy that I put out. I know that any more years of Trump is gonna be detrimental to the world. I definitely know that. But when we look back, literally no president that has been in office has done too much for Black people, melanated people in America.
Ooh, okay, so we're gonna get there. We're gonna talk about that because I think that's part of one of the things that I guess bother me too when I'm seeing these conversations. But let's not jump ahead. We're gonna get into it. But
Okay.
before we do, I want to thank all of you guys for coming and watching our show today. And I just want to make a couple of quick announcements before we get started. And first and foremost, I want to introduce Natalie B. You guys have already seen her. She's been on the show a few times, but now she will be a permanent staple. She will now be my new co-host for Oh We Gon' Talk. As my love, my sis, my boo, Kawana Williams, is stepping down from her co-host position, as she is doing so many things. I'm so proud of her, and she's going to take this time to primarily focus on her next steps and her next goals, and I'm all in support of that. Love her to the moon and beyond still, and just thankful to her for starting with me, because in all actuality I was a bit nervous about getting this up and started, and I had been sitting on this idea for some years. I had threw it out to her some time ago, and it still took a couple months or so after that before I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep putting it off. I'm doing the self saboteur, and just having her strength and encouragement to get it started meant the world to me. So thank you, sis, for starting my journey with me and helping me have the strength to get out here and get it started, and just being a big support while we got it off to the ground. So I love you. I'm rooting for you. I cannot wait to call you Dr. Williams.
Come on.
And I am definitely going to be screaming my head off when you finally finish, and keep on defending that dissertation. And I just wanted to say thank you to you for all that you've done for Oh We Gonna Talk. So now we'll welcome Natalie. Tell us, Natalie, how are you feeling about doing this? And I'm so happy to have you, because I love your energy. I love your stands on so much stuff, and you just got the glow, girl. You got the last dragon glow, and you got that
So
glow.
come on. Come on in.
You got the glow. So tell me, how are
Well,
you
thank you,
feeling
sis.
coming on to Oh We Gonna Talk?
I'm really excited. I had a blast the other times I had been on the show. I love your energy as well. So it was really fun for me. I've been hosting for forever. And like I was telling you, that it started to set in. It had been a minute since I hosted consistently. And so I was like, yeah, let's do this. Let's do this. I love your platform, and I love the way that you want to attack these generational curses and these traumas that we need to address and the things we need to talk about in the Black community. And that's what I'm about. That's what I've always been about. So it was definitely easy for me to say yes.
Well, I am glad to have you on, and I'm excited to continue this journey with another sister that is just as passionate about talking about these things, tackling these things as I am, because really feel like this was my purpose. We're all created to do things, and I just feel like this is that thing that I'm supposed to be doing, and that's helping heal us and move us forward, because we don't talk about this stuff, which is why we gonna talk about this stuff, because we need to if we're going to move forward. And one of those conversations that we have to have is about election politics, this election, and how just some of the division, the frustration, the just all of it, it is actually generational in some aspects. But what do we do now? Like, while everything is still up in the air and uncertain, it looks promising. If people were rooting for Biden, it looks promising for him to possibly win. However, I'm still like, did I vote for him? Yes, but I've kind of had this feeling, and I don't know if anybody else can attest to this. It's been a long time out of, I was able to do my very first vote, and I just finished high school. So it was in, I think, the 2000 election. No, I'm sorry, I didn't vote in the 2000 election for president. I voted for everything else in 2001, because by that point we had already had Bush, etc. But um, since I started my voting career, I have had very little experiences where I've went into a poll and I felt like, I really was doing something. Like, and I gotta say, these last two elections especially, um, it really felt like I was trying to do the less harm as possible, but not being able to walk into it and feel like I'm actually going to change a whole lot. And before people feel some sort of way about me saying that, It's not even about Biden or Trump as necessarily as it is just seeing all of the things that we need to do as an individual community in the
Come
first
on.
place. Where really, if we don't have, it doesn't matter who we have in office, if we're not like sweeping our own porches, it's not going to help us. So I felt and I've struggled with these feelings like of wanting to feel accomplished. You hear the argument about respecting and paying homage to our ancestors who went through so much for us to have the opportunity to vote. So I do it for that, and I do it for other reasons because I also believe that I can't complain if I'm not going to do my part, wherever how small
Absolutely.
that part is, whether that's cast a vote. That's still I'm playing a part, so I can't complain. I can't get angry if I'm not being part of the solution. But on the same note, I don't know, sis. I just be like, it's so, and just seeing so much division amongst us. I'm like, okay, we get Biden in, but some of us ain't talking to each other. We looking at each other different based on, what party line they're supporting. It's a lot of anger. It's a lot of frustration. And I've been a part of that. I'm not going to lie and say that I haven't had my moments. Like I have.
Right now,
I'm
I was
not going
like,
to be, look, I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be straight honest. I've been pissed to see some of my brothers and sisters in support of Trump.
that I can't understand. For
Okay.
me and my mother was having this conversation today in the car, and it's baffling. Like, I really cannot compute the fact that Black and brown people, because Latina, Hispanic people, Black people are real life supporting and voting for Trump. And the fact that his numbers went up from 4 years ago when he first ran, it's it's scary. Because it, for me, it makes real life, in your face, bold and prevalent how brainwashed we are and how much trauma really sets in and how many people are affected by it. The fact that his numbers went up in Black men, Black women, Hispanic men, and Hispanic women,
Uh,
and white women. It went down a little bit in white men.
it went down a little bit with the white women. So I've been like really, really, really just being still and just trying to listen and process everything I do. I try to like get to the root of stuff and not just make assumptions based off emotions because emotions are coming from something else. So we need to
Mm-hmm.
understand how trauma works. The emotions are the result of whatever trauma that we're feeling or we've experienced in our past or currently. So I've been just trying to pay a lot of attention to some of those Black supporters of Trump and really listen to their reasonings. And where I would get most upset is not even in the fact of that they're going to that they feel that for whatever reason that Trump is better for them. It seems that it's very economically based for them. I don't understand how it's economically based, but I'm looking at it
Was
as
it the stimulus check? What was it?
what
Like,
girl? The $40
right, that little bit of stimulus. What was it for them? Please tell me
So
the answer, sis.
I truly feel that part of it is this whole idea of still the American dream, right? Just in listening to people not wanting to be in favor of the Fair Tax Act, and it's like, but most of us ain't making $400,000. Well, it's gonna kill this, but most of the middle class has been one of the biggest ways or pathways for Black people to advance and make it out of the hood and have a piece of their American dream and have their house and their white picket fence. And the middle class, especially the Black middle class, is suffering. However,
How does it make sense that we are paying the same amount of money as people who have hundreds and millions and billions of dollars if they live in
yeah,
Illinois?
yeah.
How does that make sense? Me working my job versus some people out here working at McDonald's versus some people working out here 2-3 jobs just to feed their family and still be coming up short. Have to pay the same amount of money as the person on the top floor of one of these penthouses downtown. That
It
doesn't make
doesn't.
sense.
Yeah, it doesn't. But apparently, in some people's minds, it does. And I think at a later date, when emotions aren't so high, when things aren't so on the line as they are right now, I would love to have a round table of us actually being able to sit down with opposing views and try to
I
really
want to know. I
articulate
really want to
like
know.
what it is, because I feel like we're living in two different worlds, and I don't understand what the world that the Black Trump supporters are living in, especially now. So I was annoyed in 2016, but just to see the state of the division, the boldness, the outright racism
Outright.
being encouraged, and I hear people saying, well, Biden did this bill. Well, first and foremost, it wasn't Biden by himself, and there were a whole lot of Black people that wanted that bill too, and that signed off on that bill because they were in despair about the crack era. Didn't know what else to do, just wanted it to stop and thought that this was the way or the pathway to do it. He's admitted that it sucks, and has he been perfect? No. But I guess I don't expect any of them to be perfect. I haven't met a perfect politician, not even Obama, as much as I love me some.
And that's what I was saying at the beginning when you first asked me. I'm real unbothered by a lot of the things that happen. I actually looked back at some old pictures the other day, and I was like, oh, Trump was the president then? Like, I just whole be forgetting he in office because in my life, I'm not gonna put energy to that. Like, I'm not gonna put energy. And I know people that refuse to say his name. I know people who refuse to call him the president. They just address him as 45 and keep it pushed. Like, and I just refuse to acknowledge he exists until somebody just say his name or bring it up, and I go, oh yeah, that character. Like, because like you just said, you can't fully put your trust into any of them. They're all playing a game, and sometimes we come out worse off. Sometimes we may come out, most of the time we come out exactly the same, right? But I haven't been living or read or researched about a time where we have come out on top or at least equal or where we should be
So
when someone has been president.
I have questions about that, which is part of the things that I've been finding myself thinking about. And I'm gonna try to turn to the comments as well, because we getting some really good comments in here. I see y'all people, so just give me a minute. I promise I ain't ignoring y'all. But I'm beginning to realize that our idea of what that looks like, of us coming out on top or getting better, is part of our problem. We are not on the same accord for that, or at least if we are semi on the same accord for that, it's being, certain things are being weighted too heavily on our, that this is the thing that's going to fix us. I think we talked about this when we were brainstorming about this topic, and I was saying how, you hear people talking about economic wealth and independence, etc. But I was just watching people getting these loans, and they at the Gucci line at the mall. They doing this, they doing that.
Yes.
And this was supposed to be a business loan.
Can we talk about it?
I'm
And
not
half the people
trying to
that got it don't have a business.
I'm not trying to throw shade. I'm not out here judging. You spend your money how you want to spend your money, okay? Because best believe I spend mine accordingly. However, we keep talking and pushing certain narratives without realizing that no amount of money is going to fix our problem if we're not responsible, if we're not monetarily responsible, and we don't know what to do with that money. And most people that ain't never had money ain't going to do right with the money.
Now that goes into the reparations talk. Now I totally agree that we are not on the same page. Mm-hmm. A huge part of my mission and what I'm working to do, and I may have mentioned this before, I'm not sure if I have, but I am actually working and gathering information to create something like a Black City Council, where we hold politicians accountable. We actually put up the politicians that we need, that we know that are working in the community and that abide by what the council, which is everybody in every Black community has agreed to, is our list of demands and the things that we find to be important. And so we put up our own candidates, people that we know that are from the community, that's about the community, and that's going to actually do the work for the community, right? And then if you're not one of the people we put up and you happen to get into office, we're going to hold you accountable, right? But it starts with that list. What do we want? How do we want it? What's important to us? And that's what's going to really create change. Right now, we everywhere. And it's a lot of great organizations. It's a lot of great people. It's a lot of great politicians out here trying to make it, trying to do the work, trying to run for office. They don't get the backing or the support because they're either running for independent and not Democrat, because really we go into the ballot booth and we only checking off Democrat.
Facts.
Right? So you got some of these independent people that's running and they really want to create change and do amazing things, but we don't even look at their name because they not on the plantation we from.
And we ain't talking about no damn Kanye West either. Like I'm
definitely not talking about Kanye.
We're not talking about Ye, okay?
So definitely not talking about Kanye.
Thank
you for that, because we talked about that earlier today too.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about that too, because
it's not for it.
So I'm gonna try to get to some of these comments. Because I want to try and make sure that from here on out on these shows, I'm not ignoring our audience, because we would not even be having a show if you aren't there. So we want to make sure that we're acknowledging your comments. So I see Andre. Well, all right, Dre, I see you, Dre. Dreezy Klaus, he says the voting system needs to change. We need to get off the merry-go-round of trauma and missed opportunities. Biden-Harris is still a more responsible team up in leadership than Trump. I agree. My brother Steph Harden is there. He says we are susceptible to propaganda. Black folks want the empire to collapse, but don't seem to realize we are not prepared to survive the fallout.
Can we talk about that for a second before we move on? I definitely want some more comments. But I definitely want to speak to that. They shuck and jive for us. They, like, when Hillary was running and Shorty said, I got hot sauce in my bag, swag, I say, y'all don't see a problem with this? She did. So nobody sees a problem with this? Didn't Biden come out with a mixtape or something? Like, they just out here foolish.
Yeah, acting a fool.
They out here foolish. Like, the banter on Twitter. I'm gonna say this piece and I'm gonna move on from this point. But I woke up and I looked, because I'm like, all right, we got the show tonight. Let me see what's going on real quick. They still wasn't done counting. So I was like, all right. But Trump had put something on Twitter, like, if he don't win, he moving out the country, right? Girl, so like, I ain't bet, bye, you know.
But that's prosecution. That ain't got nothing to do with his damn ego. He's scared.
Because one, he ain't gonna be president no more, so he gotta pay them taxes, and he can darn near get arrested for all the stuff they didn't try to indict him on. And come on, when you out this seat, you free game, bro. But anyway, so he said he moving out the country or something like that. And then Biden said he like broke his name down and said Biden. Biden. And I was like, these are the people we want to represent our country. Though that ish was funny, I did get a chuckle out of it. Like, y'all Twitter beefing, and these are the people we want to be president. I definitely agree that Biden is a way better alternative, and Shorty too. I can't remember her name at the moment. Vice President
Kamala.
Yes.
Kamala.
Whatever her name is.
Kamala.
Sister girl. Okay. Right. Because I ain't for her neither. Her track record ain't the cleanest. But they are still a better alternative than Trump. So yes, I voted for them. But we got to see what they're doing. First of all, we say our vote don't matter. If our vote didn't matter, they wouldn't be shucking and jabbing for it. They wouldn't be trying to oppress it.
If it was not important, they wouldn't be saying, no, you can't go.
Not sending out mail-in ballots and all the other stuff they doing.
Messing with
and from the beginning, we got to realize, I'm going to take it back for a second, like all the way back.
Take it back.
Once we were not slaves anymore, right? I'm gonna take it all the way back, right?
You took it back.
Till
Okay.
American history anyway.
Okay. Go ahead.
Once we were not slaves anymore, we could vote. A lot of people don't know that. They're like, oh, we got the right to vote in the 60s. We're going to research this thing. We could vote. And it was more black people in the South, darn it, than it was white people because they were freed slaves. So they were not only voting, they were winning. And they were getting black people into offices. That's when the KKK and the white supremacists got mad. And that's when they started killing people because they were voting or wanted to vote. And that's when the poll taxes and you had to be able to read or write a certain amount to vote. That's when all of those other things started coming into play. And it was because black people were coming out in large numbers to vote and they were voting in black people in offices. And the racist white folks got mad. Then not having the right to vote and all the hoopla that came about it to stop black people from voting came into play. Straight up, the KKK and white supremacists overthrew the government. Mm-hmm. And this is researchable. They literally was killing people in office, kidnapping people in office. And if you wonder why the government never stepped in when the South had their Jim Crow laws and was out there lynching people and going crazy, that is why. Do the research. Don't just believe me, y'all. Do your research. It's a fact.
She giving y'all a history lesson now. A Black history lesson for those, because they cover a lot of this stuff too. And at least they did when I took Black history in high school.
You said they covered it in your Black history class?
Well, it was because of the teacher that I had.
I was like, look at God.
Because you did have African American history at, I went to PW and you did have it, and not all kids took it, but I did. I did take it. I preferred that over civics and U.S. history. So I took it. It was an elective, and that the teacher that I had very much went off script at times. I can't even remember her name.
But bless her.
You know, I'm sure some of my classmates that's watching may can remember her name, but she went very much off script sometimes with things. But I appreciated that, you know, having a teacher that was well versed in history, and not in the sense of just what the books that they gave her, you know, that she seemed to have done some of her own research, or at least had some of that knowledge prior to. But yes, to your point, you're right. I want to touch on a point that you just brought up as well, because that's another issue that I've been seeing come up all the time when we start talking about, well, what parties we were aligned with originally. And at first it was Republicans, and now we Democrats.
But that was just because Lincoln was one and he freed us. That still was a blind decision, just like we going there and blindly voting now. It was like, oh, he freed us, so they must be good, when he only freed them for the shmoney.
That's it. That's all.
He ain't really care about black people.
He didn't. No, because he didn't even see us as still being all human.
Right. He was just like, he made the best business move.
The best for him. Move. Economics.
He wasn't really trying to do nothing right for black people. And see, and that's what I mean by like still going blindly. We pick Republican because he freed us. He must be good. So everybody that's with him must be good. And we see how that switched up, right? So the thing is, for me, is not for us to keep going. And that's why I said which plantation we on, because they both plantations, right? Because you got Republican, you got Democrat. They both shucking and jiving and throwing out propaganda that we quick to believe, like the post in the comment said. The thing is, when will we start doing our research, take our power back, and put up our own people? We need our own political party. We got to stop believing that these people are going to come up to try to save us when they never have and they never will. We have to save us.
And I think that's probably one of the things that I get so irritated about when I hear all of this, like, you still have a big group of Black people that despise Obama. Feel some very deep-rooted, strong feelings about him when someone acknowledges him as the best president that the country's ever had.
He was the swaggiest.
You're like, well, he damn sure that.
That's
And
undefeated.
they be like, what did he do for black people? Well, I never expected for him to walk in the office, start kicking ass and taking names. I did not expect that. And here is why I didn't expect that,
I was
because
like,
there's checks and balances.
there
There's
definitely
only
are.
so much that he would be able to do, just on the strength of the fact that there are two other checks and balances, that you have the House and the Senate, where things have to line up where he has in a position to make those moves. If he
Can
doesn't,
I pause you there for a second, sis?
go ahead.
I'm gonna Kanye you for a second. I just want to say this, but I'm gonna let you finish.
Go ahead.
Since people was actually voting for my too. The thing about that is we don't even understand the checks and balances fully. We don't even understand how our government works. That's another reason why we just out here going blindly and voting for whomever and doing whatever they tell us to, is because we have no idea systematically and structurally in rules. We don't know how this works. We out here like Trump because he don't know how it works either. Like we don't know how this thing really works. So we got to start educating ourselves and our children on this, and that's another way we're gonna actually create some change. But go ahead, so I just had to say that while you were talking about those checks.
Interesting about that, because I've talked to some young people, and I don't know about y'all. I'm about to tell my real age in here, because I'm 25.
Because you're 25.
25.
You're 25, sis.
No, I'm 25. But when I remember being part of my requirement to graduate 8th grade. I had to pass the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution test, and the flag test. We had to take those three, and we could not graduate 8th grade without getting a passing grade on those. In that Constitution test, you absolutely had to understand each of the branches of government, and that would weigh very heavily on whatever grade you got for that. Now, I don't know if that's still happening. I mean, it may be one of them things, because I was mind blown to see people don't wear garters at prom. I'm really telling my goddamn age now, but
I had one. So
okay, so you still but I'm wondering, I'm like, when you talk to people, I'm like, in high school, you had to take US history for an entire year, and then you had to take civics, among other things. And I'm just like,
can I help you, sis?
I'm like, why y'all don't know this?
Let me help you, sis.
Let me understand, because I'm confused.
I'm gonna help you, sis.
You gonna help me? Help me.
Open the book. They ain't teaching these kids. They not teaching them nothing. When I tell you the education system is so beyond flawed, you can't save it. You literally have to burn it down, then throw away the ashes, and set the ashes on fire and build something completely new. Because the education system is trash. First of all, the education system started with them trying to reform Native Americans. Okay. Then when it became what it is now, it was for them to train employees to have just enough information for them not to mess up somebody else's business. Okay. So we can't keep giving, again, like we do with politics, away our power and just letting them tell us what to do. But we also can't keep giving our kids to these flawed systems and actually having them or think that they're going to come out with an actual education. False. Okay. Now, I'm not saying you can't go to school and learn. You can definitely learn some things. And you also learn some things at home. You can't also just send your kids and expect them to do everything at school, and you not start them with a foundation before they go to school and then work with them at home as well. This is another reason why I'm working to open a school, because we can't keep doing this. I know teachers. I talk to teachers. I've been a teacher, and I've been in the school system where I see them literally just pass kids that don't know the information because they got quotas to fill, because these kids are money to them. That's it. And if they fail a certain amount of kids, that lowers their ranks, and it's money. It's a system and it's a game. They're not educating your kids, and if your kids don't get it, they like, we failed Frank, so Kim got to pass. Like, even if she don't know the information. So they're not really educating these children. So we really have to take control of education. That's literally the foundation of how all of this is going to change. educating them on one, how the system works and how we can fit into it and change it completely. But also, like we were talking about earlier, not understanding how black and brown people are voting for Trump. If we don't really educate these kids on the issues and who the enemy really is, then they're gonna be out here going for the okie doke every time. We do them a disservice by just have them out here living their life and think because we ain't physically shackled no more that we good. We done made it. Because that's how a lot of these kids out here thinking. And these kids are old enough to vote now.
It's a lot of
And these kids are old
adults
enough to have kids now.
it's adults. It's grown individuals who are my age, 25 and older, that also think like that.
Absolutely. Because that's a generational trauma.
It's a generational curse.
We just want our kids to fit in and don't worry about that. Even though shorty, your brethren just got shot up the street, don't worry about why or how or the police that did it. Oh, you got stopped and frisked for no reason. It's okay. Just go about. No, we got to start telling our kids and preparing them on what's going on so they're not surprised and they know how to fix it and they know what's going on. We're doing a huge disservice to our lineage, our future generations, by not being 100 with these kids and telling them what's going on so they can work to fix it.
I'm gonna try to head back to these comments a little bit, sis, so I can make sure we keeping these viewers in.
Because I know they coming with these comments.
They coming.
I know they coming with.
They coming. They are coming in hot.
Let me look at these comments.
I have Steph saying, "Oh wait, hold on, let me scroll back up because see they coming."
Right, that's why I'm like, I just look like 23. Oh, that's another one. Okay, they coming. I'm sorry, y'all.
I'm seeing as always when America pisses in the wind, black folks get wet. Facts. And then we got Dre saying Black Trump supporters do not operate with empathetic emotional base. They are strong conservative with screwed pragmatism. Yes, listen, I ain't had no coffee, y'all. I ain't had no coffee today.
She told me, y'all, it's the truth. She drank some water though.
I always gotta have my water, but I had not one coffee cup today, and I had very little sleep watching the TV. Okay, so I'm struggling today. So if I stumble on some words, I promise I'm educated.
It's gonna be all right.
Legitly, I am. Like,
girl, ain't nobody judging you. We just talked about how this education system stupid. We just talked about.
I have been sadly educated as well. I see Steph saying, which is baffling because conservatives don't believe in conservatism. Pro-life until their mistress gets pregnant. Oh, ooh.
Talk about it. Talk about it.
Ooh. I want to touch on that. Let me finish his comment, then I want to touch on that because I've been seeing this be a hot reason or a linchpin in why a lot of black and brown people are voting Trump. So I'm gonna go to let me finish. She says law and order until they are stealing, no deficit until they control the budget, anti-LGBTQ plus until they get caught in a hotel. If that ain't facts, I hear
all the facts,
all of that, the bone, the gristle, all of that,
every bit of it,
every bit of the chicken,
the grease,
all the skin. So I see a lot of Trump supporters pushing the pro-life narrative, and this is why it bothers me. It bothers me for a lot of reasons because first and foremost, if we run around telling those same men that they had to get their vasectomies done until they were financially capable of taking care of kids, and that made that a law, that would be a problem, right? Because we should not be monitoring your body, right? Like you should have will over what you do with your body. But I'll just go ahead and move past that. But when we start getting into the pro-life, I find it very contradictory that it's only important when it's a fetus, because when the baby comes to be born, they're living in poverty. If they were an unwanted child, they are abused or abandoned.
And they're not trying to pay for it to help the mother that you may keep the baby.
When your child is growing up in a impoverished neighborhood and has or becomes part of the system, they're looking at you, they're blaming you. And they're automatically assuming, right, that if you do have kids and you're in a poverty area, that's what they're going to do anyway. The pipeline, the prison system, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you saying that pro-life is important, but is it only important when I'm pregnant? Because I feel like that is a very
This
emotional,
life should matter after it's
it should
born.
matter after and all of that. So if a mother
Right.
is saying, I'm not in a position to care for a child, and she chooses to not go on with that pregnancy, if you are there trying to fight her or prevent her from doing that, what are you going to do then once she have that child? Because they promise you all kinds of things about how they go, you don't have to do this, we'll help you do this, you'll get that for the baby. But God willing, most high willing, this child will live a very long life. They're gonna need things past diapers and past your hug and congratulations, but they're not trying to think about or support kids that are born to parents that didn't want to be in that situation for whatever reason. I'm not
And
here
you
to
have to think about when we talk about trauma, we got to talk about it. It starts from
talk
the
about it.
womb. But
Yeah.
if you have a child that's born into a situation with parents, one or both, that did not want them, more times than not, they're going to treat them like they did not want them. So you have a person from a baby all the way up to adulthood that's treated like they're nothing, like they don't matter, like they're not wanted. Imagine the triggers and the behavior that that person is going to put out into the world. So you're literally darn near creating a generation of children that will become teenagers, that will become adults, that are in the world mentally jacked up
Yeah.
and throwing that behavior on everyone. A whole generation of people doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just if they were treated like they were not wanted. That's not even talking about abuse, verbal or physical. And if they're inflicting that on other people around them, like there's consequences to those type of things and that type of behavior. But can we just also say that the fact that a woman's body is still on the table for the government to decide anyway is jacked. That's a number one reason. For me, that's not actually number one. That's number two. I'll tell you what number one is in a second. But why is that still on the table in 2020? Because we have not taken back our power enough. Because the whole system was built by white men. White men not only control black people, black bodies, but they control women. They women and every other woman too. And so why is it still on the table in 2020? Why isn't that off of the table? My number one that I said I was gonna get back to, they still have to vote on the fact that black people have the right to vote. I hope y'all knew that. In 2020, that's not permanent that we have the right to vote. That's not set in stone forever and ever, amen, that we have the right to vote. They still have to renew that. Every so often, they got to go back in the room and be like, hey, should black people be able to vote still? Yeah. Okay.
That shouldn't even be a damn question. It shouldn't be a question, which circles us back to about the system just being, not for us anyway. So
Not for
realistically,
us.
and I want to debunk this theory that black people are voting because we're putting all of our hope and our faith in some man and some Biden or Obama or Trump or whomever. When that, if you are an educated black voter, if you are a realistic black voter, you are not doing that because you have a better understanding of how the system works anyway. And so that absolutely positively this is not your savior, right? However, what black people do know is sometimes all you need is for some things to be aligned where it can put you in a position where you can ride the same damn wave that the other people are riding and benefit from it. That's essentially what we're trying to do. We're trying to get a little piece of the wave so that we can position ourselves so that if we are to ever get on the same accord, we are to ever unite, that we have a little something to stand on. We got a little foundation to stand on. We're not voting because I believe that Biden or Kamala is going to save us. I didn't believe that for Obama. As much as I love me some Obamas and love me some Michelle,
Swag it in the
it's
mom.
not swag. Smooth. Did you see him with that jump shot the other day?
And then Michelle, honey,
Look, we ain't gonna talk about it because we'll be here all night talking about it.
baby.
We'll talk about it.
But what they actually did for me, not much. Good representation, though.
Good
Beautiful image of Black people in the White
representation.
House.
And part of it was ain't no way he was gonna be able to do a whole lot because he didn't have the support in those other two branches of government. He didn't, I mean, into those other parts of the checks and balances. He didn't have the House, and he didn't have, I think he just didn't have the House when he was there. But don't quote me. It's been a minute and I ain't had no coffee. But he didn't have
And one thing
all
that
of
I
the
can
things.
say about Trump, or 45, however y'all want to address him, okay? 45, I'm going to say that. I feel comfortable with that. That man is awful, okay? He about dumb as a box of rocks. But he went in there and did, for the most part, what he said he was going to do. Immediately, like day one, I felt like he
started tearing down Obama,
build that wall, lock them up. Like he walked in, like even if legally he couldn't do it, he did it until they told him he couldn't. Like ridiculousness, but he definitely did. I'm not for nothing that he did.
And that's another thing, since we're gonna try to shift because it's just so much to unpack here with this whole election.
It's definitely a lot.
It's so much, and we'll probably, once things settle, have to have a follow-up because again, I would love to have civilized conversation with opposing viewpoints, that if there are Trump supporters that are Black and want to talk about why they were supporting Trump, but in a articulate way. I would love to have a sit down with them and have a roundtable with Biden supporters where we're really trying to get an understanding of why, like, what is it? Because I don't want to go into the whole hate speech of calling somebody an Uncle Tom or a coon or all. I mean, I've been enraged at such as wanting to do such things. However, I don't want to operate in that way. I'm
not gonna lie to you. I straight up unfriend every person that came through my timeline, and I seen and they were like, "Pound vote Trump."
Delete, delete, block. I just feel like I need to understand. I need to understand, and I need you to be able to express it. Although if you following the man's views, you are voting against your own interests. You really
That's the thing. That's why I can't compute it. Like for brown and Black people, for Latino people, let's take Black people out of the equation for just a second, because we always there. But for just a second, and let's look at Latina people. Okay, Latino, Latina, my male and my female, Mexican, wherever you from, but you Latino, Latina. Okay, you identify there. Hispanic people. He literally has y'all babies
in cages.
And I'm gonna say y'all babies because
parentless now.
Parentless. You don't know what's wrong. 3-year-old, baby arm babies in cage. Half of them coming up missing. And the other half coming up with sexual assault cases because people in there messing with them. I don't know if they eating. I don't know. But these human beings, your babies, your lineage, your future, in cages, and can round you up and throw you out too. And a friend of mine told me this just yesterday. She was saying that a young lady, I think she went to high school with, she's Hispanic. Her dad's white. Her mom's Hispanic, right? And they were Republicans, or I'm gonna say they were Republican, and they were super Trump, right? And so she couldn't understand it, and she actually asked the girl, because we should have these conversations to try to figure this thing out. So she's like, "How are you a Trump supporter when your mother's Hispanic?" And she's like, she's like, aren't you worried about her possibly getting deported, anything like that? And she's like, no, I was born here, just all of this stuff, right? They're legit, they're legal. She said, no doubt, 2 years later, she was on Facebook crying, talking about her mother just got deported.
You
Come to
know,
find out, she wasn't there legitly, and all of this other stuff. And
and
I
a
don't
lot
know,
of times that's the case, and the kids have no idea. They just assume that their
no
parents
idea.
and have no idea that they're not legal citizens. And you know, that's sad. That's sad. And you know, I think that what happens, which is why we're not really cared for abroad in most places, is that we have an American arrogance. We get this arrogance as Americans, especially because we're supposed to be the superpower, right? Like we are
Mm-hmm.
the, you know, number one country in the world.
We're
And
the baby. We're like the arrogant. I wouldn't even call us a teenager. We a toddler.
Tamar
Like,
Braxton, let me stop. we the arrogant one.
we just out here like, I do what I want.
I do what I want, and
Younger
literally,
than that thing. And the
and
elders in the back like, just live a little longer.
just live, just live a little bit longer. You don't know, youngin. You don't know what you speak of.
Right.
You know, I mean, we get very arrogant. Like, you know, I've made it. I've arrived. I've literally heard some Latina people that said, you know, well, I have my citizenship and I had to go through this and this and that and the third. So why are these people able to be here and they didn't? I had to go. If you talking about how hard it was for you to get your citizenship, do you not think that that may have been just as complicated for them to have their citizenship?
And you had to understand and maybe some support through this process. These were people that was just by any means necessary trying to find a better life. And I'm gonna say it one more time, how can we, but mostly how can they talk about somebody sneaking into this country or coming over here looking for a better life when that's what their ancestors did? Trump like 3 generations off the boat. His wife just got off the plane.
Get off the plane. Just off the plane. And he's anti-immigration. The
You
hypocrisy.
3 generations off the boat. Your family just got here. And your wife just moved in. Stop, bruh. Stop. Like,
Well,
we have to really look at this.
we can't use him for example because he just think the rules don't apply to him nowhere, no how about nothing. So we can't even use him as a basis of conversation
But
because
it all comes down to for real, this is why I started off by saying, like, the increase of the supporters of other races for him, black and brown people, just really speak to the trauma that we have. It all really comes down to self-hate. It's legit like Hitler. My dude sitting there with brown eyes and brown hair talking about an Aryan race of blue eyes and blonde hair, and nobody was like, hey, bro,
you ain't got none of that. Wait a minute. This don't something ain't.
can we be at you or not? Like, nobody thought to question that. But how is this real Jewish, real brown hair, brown eyed man can stand and create a movement that killed so many people, traumatically scarred the world, and had so many people with him and backing him when he was the exact thing that he was telling people to kill? He hated himself.
That's how oppression works. I mean,
And that's where we are.
Very,
And I think
very
that's what we
powerful.
have to identify.
Yeah.
We all, for the most part, have a bit of that in us. Some more than others, but there's a drop in all of us because it's traumatic. It's from generation to generation to generation, and kind of what we were talking about when we were initially talking about this topic. It's been passed down. So even the wokest person got to check themselves in certain situations because it's there. And if you don't know it's there and you let that thing go unchecked, you got these people out here voting for Trump.
Yeah, with the hope of being equal, the hope of
being seen as not them,
not being seen as them, and standing on each other to do it, which is what is hurtful more than anything. And I think that that's where a lot of the division comes from, when you start having us call each other out our names and you know all of that, just be like, you know, I'm done, I'm cancel culture and stuff. It's like we are like, you supposed to be on the same side. Like if I'm hurt, then you should be hurt.
Exactly.
If you're hurt, I should be hurt. But we very much as a community do still operate on a very selfish basis. It's about your family. It's about you and where you're trying to go, and not thinking about how
It's the
supporting someone
collective.
is.
The flaw with us in
Yeah,
this generation is that we are not thinking about the greater good, and that is what will kill us dead. We have to look at each other as loved ones. You are my brother. You are my sister. I don't care if I never met you before.
I love
And
you.
that's why I started my company Melanated in America, because no matter what, we are all melanated in America. We all a part of that club. We all in that family. Whether I know you, whether you from Texas, whether you from Chicago, whether you from New York, Hawaii, wherever you from, it does not matter. We walk the same line every day. We know the same experiences that no other person would ever understand but us. We family. So when things change for one of us, they can change for all of us. We really have to get into that collective mindset. But again, that trauma of those generational curses and white supremacy that's been beat into us since the day we got here,
Accepted, beat
and
into,
still
but now
exists.
we're accepting it. It's not only had it, I mean, we would still at some points like reject it, right? We would try to
Mhm.
rebel against it, but more and more it's starting to be acceptable because you want to have uh the same space, the same grace, the same allowances that white people have, but this system is not built for us to have that. It's never going to be built for us to have that. And it only makes it easier for us to rebel against that or to reject that,
Mhm.
being so divided. And that's really what the point is. The point is for us to all not be on one accord because it makes it so much easier for us to be controlled, right?
Divided you fall.
The divide and conquer is exactly what it is. I'm gonna try to go back to the comments, and then I have something I want to ask the audience and just kind of get a understanding of like what were your motivations for voting for one party or the other? I'm assuming that most of our viewers, based on the comments, are in fact Biden supporters. But what were your hopes in looking to Biden? What were you hoping to have be changed with hopefully kicking Trump out of office? Why do you vote? I want to hear from you, and I want to give people the space to say that out loud, because I feel like when we're arguing with each other back and forth, we start talking about policies, and there's a lot of misinformation on certain policies as well, certain
Mhm.
on both behalves, on both party sides, I think. But of course, definitely on Trump's side. Trump, I don't think that the man has ordered one reliable
Trying to
thing.
sue states, y'all. Y'all know this?
You know, we
Y'all
know
know this? Yeah. Big
we
man.
so I mean I see he's throwing a whole temper tantrum, but you
Throwing
know
all types of shade. He's so mad.
he's mad. He was sure he had declared victory, honey, before.
He was declaring it and then telling people, didn't he say that they shouldn't count the mail-in ballots until after the election? How?
No, they shouldn't count them at all. He doesn't
Oh,
want them
that's
counted at
worse.
all. He wants it to stop. He says, I'm winning, so we need to stop counting.
And he was like, it should end tonight. How when they ain't counted all the votes, bro? Do you not know how America works at this point?
He
I
knows,
know it's a little confusing for us
he
all,
knows, but he
but
doesn't think the rules
that's
apply.
baseline.
He doesn't think the rules apply to him, and that's simply what it is. He just thinks that he don't.
White male privilege to the extreme power.
Mm.
I don't even know how many times you times his.
Hmm.
It's just you put one. That's when you put the letters up there. That's that new mail.
Don't. That's a whole. We gonna have to have a show topic on new math. Piss my brother off as the educator. We don't have that. It's you are starting a generational curse with this new math. We got enough generational curses to get past boxes
They'll
and
be starting them new ones.
you starting a new one. I'm so tired of my kids thinking I don't know nothing. I promise I know how to
We
do
didn't do
math.
that back in my day.
That's not how I learned it. Like that's not how I was taught. And y'all are creating division in my household. Y'all messing up my street cred, my parental cred with this math. I
Not
don't know.
your street cred, sis.
It's terrible. I mean, it is terrible. I'm sorry, Steph. I know you probably watching. My brother is an educator.
Not the street cred. Steph,
But,
you messing up our street cred.
I mean, this new math, not to get too off subject, but a little bit off subject, has me in the bathroom. I'm using the bathroom. No, I'm YouTubing, honey. I'm watching Khan Academy and stuff, trying to figure out. That's me.
The face of the
Help you with your homework. I'm using the bathroom. It's been an hour. I know. I'm coming.
That equals 2.
That's that new math. But I want to hear from y'all and see, how are y'all feeling? Do a check-in. How are y'all feeling? I'm gonna take a brief look at the screen here, and I'm seeing that Biden is still up, and they're still waiting on some things to happen. Um, the margins in Pennsylvania is closing. The gap is closing, and that they're almost. They're almost neck and neck and there's still a lot more votes needing to be. There's still 800,000 votes needing to be counted in Pennsylvania, and they are closing the gap. So Trump was leading in Pennsylvania. That's where he wanted them to stop the count, because they hadn't at that point counted any of Philadelphia's mail-in ballots, like none of them, and he wanted them to stop right there because he felt like he won. So now that they're getting through those, the gap between the two presidents are very much narrowing. So that's what.
Can we talk about that for a second while you check out the comments and
go ahead.
And people definitely check in with how you feel too, just in general. I think it's really important to identify how we feel in these traumatic situations, because we've been here before where the person we knew should not have been president skated by. We've been there a few times. Okay. This is America. No, catch him slipping, no. This is America.
Just 4 years ago. Just 4 years ago, it was the same situation. I just remember I was working overnights at the time, and I went on a rant. I got unfriended by so many people.
I remember when Bush got in that time. Boy, how? Like, we were all looking at the screen. How did this happen?
I feel like, and which was where I had come to the understanding with myself, like, if Trump wins and he's declared the president, this is what's meant, and the country just has to implode. And I just pray that we survive. And that's literally like what I kind of was at, because it's gonna take for a rock bottom to hit for people to kind of let go of this idea. Like, I'm still wondering about what, people don't even understand how the system works with the economy, and the economy is booming. It wasn't booming like this when Obama was in. Well, actually, Obama kickstarted it so that he
fake news.
But
fake news.
We don't deal in facts with this presidency, apparently.
At all. He just be lying, and then we be like, but if you look at the facts.
That's no.
You're not saying what it's supposed to say, bro. Like, you just straight up lying. Like, we ain't gonna look at this. Like,
alternative facts is what he used to call them. Remember, they was like alternate facts.
Alternative fact. That's he needs to get that tatted, because it's his. Okay.
Alternate fact.
Can we talk about this chart? Right? If you look at, y'all done seen these maps on social media of the blue and the red, right?
And I'm sorry, I just gotta, before we hit there, this has been bothering me.
Yes.
So apparently, it was on the ballot in other counties to have Chicago kicked out of Illinois.
Huh? Like real life?
In real life.
Why wasn't that
real life counties that voted to have Chicago separated from the state of Illinois?
What would Illinois be without Chicago?
Ma'am, they again not understanding how Chicago plays a role in the state, the whole
Springfield? Like,
so there was this apparently was actually on the ballot in some counties.
That's craziness.
Yes, facts. But in looking at that map, and looking at Illinois, most of Illinois was red, but because Chicago kind of makes up most of Illinois population wise, it wasn't enough to carry the state up to get the electoral votes. What has
That's
happened?
why they want us gone. But low key, that's why they want to take Chicago back. If you pay attention, if you really pay attention, when white flight happened, white folks was in Chicago. We were all, everywhere down south. And Great Migration happened. We came through like what? Here. Okay. Then we started moving into the areas and they started moving out to the suburbs and creating all these little other towns that's in Illinois, right? Okay. 15 block radiuses and other foolishness. No shade to anybody out there in the burbs. Okay. This is just fact. Uh, this is just what it is. I'm just saying it in my way. Um, now, the thing is, if you really pay attention to what's happening in Chicago and predominantly Black communities, there's this thing called gentrification. Some of you may have heard of it, where they are trying to take it back. South Shore, Inglewood, they're working really hard. Bronzeville is on its way. Kenwood area, like it's a lot of areas in Chicago that's predominantly Black communities where gentrification is selling in. They popping up condos. If you see your streets getting fixed, a high police presence, and a Mariano's or a Whole Foods pop up, be afraid. Okay, if you
Especially
see
the Marianos,
baby,
especially the Marianos.
if your spot
In
used to
no
be
place that
considered
ain't
the
gonna
hood,
be white people. We
if
get all.
your if your area was considered the hood, and you're standing on the bus stop at 7 a.m. and you see a white family come jog past you and say hello,
It's
be
happening.
afraid. Gentrification is coming for you. Okay. Uh, so when we look at those type of things, they're trying to take the city back. And when they tore down the projects and they did the vouchers for the families that live there and promised them that they were going to create some more affordable housing so that they can come back to the area that they grew up in and was raised in, the vouchers that they gave them was all for the suburbs.
Mm.
So they took, it was, hundreds of families because projects was huge. Okay. It was multiple projects that they tore down and they gave all of these people vouchers for the suburbs. They promised that they were going to build them some more housing in the area for them to come back. They never did. Still to this day, there's no affordable housing for them to come back to in the area.
A lot of condos though.
They got some fat condos if you can afford a couple thousand a month. Okay.
They got a lot of money.
And some property tax, all that good jazz. They got you if that's what you at now. If somehow magically your circumstances changed and you don't need affordable housing anymore. This is the thing. So they understand and they want to take Chicago back. And that's another reason why they push Chicago as being as violent and crazy and reckless and Chirac as it is when it isn't. You literally go to other places and you say Chicago and people are like, oh, you survived? You made it? Oh my God. You must be a gangster.
No. Let me tell you. I'm sorry, I just got to share a little story.
Go ahead, so.
How bad it was is when we used to go. So my father is from Ohio. He's from Akron, Ohio. Shout out to LeBron for actually making Akron a real place.
Oh, Miss Jeanette. I worked with Jeanette Blackwell. She's from Akron. Her whole family.
It's only about 3 blocks long. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be that rude, but I mean it's really downtown. I hope they've done more since it's been years since me and my brother have been, but we used to go at least once a year, so my father could visit his family there. And every time we would run into somebody, they would be like, "Where are you from?" "We're from Chicago." "Oh, Cabrini Green."
What they
No.
watch Candyman or something?
No, they just had heard so much about Cabrini Green that they literally thought, I don't know if they thought that Cabrini Green covered up Chicago and it was just all Cabrini.
That was the whole Chicago.
Or if they just assumed every Black person that lived in Chicago lived in Cabrini Green. Which
there was Cabrini Green and then there was downtown.
Apparently.
Everything that wasn't near the city
literally, people would be like, "Oh, you guys are from Cabrini Green," and we would be like, "Nah, no, we're from Chicago, Cabrini Green, though, right?" No, but that was their understanding of what Chicago was because of media. Media is
But that goes back to what the comment said, that propaganda that we're so quick to believe. And when you look at the media about Chicago, all you see is the negative. It's so much good in Chicago. It's so much beauty in Chicago. It's so much amazing, rich culture in Chicago. Everybody else, Chicago need a better publicist. Black Chicago specifically need a better publicist. And I'm gonna say this why. This I've lived in Chicago my whole life, been in the arts my whole life. I found the Southside Community Arts Center, which is the oldest independently owned African American art center and collectible institution in the nation, on 38th in Michigan. Just sitting in the middle of the block on 38th in Michigan. Across the street is the first African American History Museum. One block, one woman actually, right across the street from each other. Why is that not plugged? Not only to Chicagoans, but in the history books, for real, and talked about. The Chicago Renaissance is still happening. All you hear about is the Harlem Renaissance movement, which was funded by white dollars. That's why it had a hard end. But the Chicago Renaissance movement, as far as the artists, the poetry, the plays, the art movements that came from Chicago, they are still literally happening to this day, but you don't hear about it. You don't hear about it unless you in some deep dive, you know somebody that knows somebody, or you got a good teacher. We need a better publicist. And so as Black people in general need a better publicist, like Black culture need a better publicist, because we need to really start learning about ourselves so that we can stand in our power and stand in our truth and stand in our greatness. If we know that people back in the 40s and the 1800s and BC did all these great, amazing things, because when you talk about it, I'm going to take this way back. And this still ties into voting, y'all, in the election, I promise.
It all
ties in. If you take it way back, they be lying to us, first of all. That's just a given. Y'all know that already. Do you know astrology, mathematics, medicine, books, maps, all of that was Africa? You know, Africa is like the richest continent as far as like everything. Why all the time you see Africa's little kids with big stomachs with flies on their head? There are huge, amazing Wakanda-looking cities in Africa right now. Bet you don't see that?
Of course
they are painting a picture of you, your legacy, and your future as being less than when you are more than. You are great. Everything that they have, they stole from you. So that's what I need us to realize, because that will ground us, root us, and we will stand up straight in our power. And when we do that, this BS ain't gonna happen. You gotta vote to tell me I can vote? Get out of here with that BS. Flip the table. You gotta what? You gonna tell me I can do what with my body?
And to your point, even about the whole vote to allow me to vote.
Right.
When you hear people being like, oh, your vote don't matter, this and that. If it wasn't, then why would that even be a thing? If it really was that small in significance, would they really go through all this trouble? Would they go through all of this trouble? It obviously has some significance in it, which is why they don't want you to do it.
And that's why they bank on us not being educated voters, so that we can feed into what they want us to do. They bank on that. They bank on us not being educated, period. Because again, if we really take control of our education and our children's education and our re-education, because we need to re-educate ourselves, a wrap. When I say done, we wouldn't even be having these conversations. Like, it'd be
Which
over.
is why I would love to have more of a good source. I mean, because we turn still to, at least a lot of our community still turns to white mainstream media, right? CNN, ABC, NBC, etc., etc. It would be very influential if we had our own mainstream media. I know that we have News One or TV One. Roland Martin tries to do that, which, I hate the way he talks a lot of the time, but his voice just, I don't know what it is with the man's voice. But he's very well educated, and he does try his best to put out like facts, and have that positive information stream for us. But I feel like we need to do that more, and then I think we need to have a trust with each other, that when we're telling each other one these things, that no one's making up stuff and no one's lying about things. I
And
also
I actually hosted an event called the Melanated Vote.
Yes, you did, and it was dope.
Thank you, sis. I mean, it was some powerful comments stated. I had some amazing people, Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor. I had Paris Walker Thomas, who was running actually over in my district, the 28th district, and Marquise Skinny Averett from Georgia. I had just some really Paymon Rami, some amazing people on the line. And Paymon Rami actually said something super dope that fits directly into that. And he was talking about the black media sources and how at one point you had them, you can trust them, everybody went there for the information, but now they're gone. And Paris actually mentioned the Chicago Defender. How powerful media is, we fully don't understand. We know, honestly, we should know, because media controls our lives, from social media to Netflix to media literally control our lives.
If
But
you
we still
haven't watched, hold on, I'm just cutting in. I'm
go
sorry.
ahead. Go ahead.
If you haven't watched The Social Dilemma on Netflix, watch it.
Okay.
Watch it.
I
Okay.
haven't. I'm gonna have to check that out.
People out there, if you have not watched The Social Dilemma on Netflix, I need you to watch it. Watch it. Mind blowing.
I'm gonna have to
The
check that
power
out.
of social media and how it's really shaping our lives.
Is it a documentary?
It's so it is a documentary, but it has some like dramatizations in it. I thought it was pretty cool the way that they present this documentary, but it breaks down social media, how social media is working, how the internet is working, algorithms, how they are
Really?
influential in our everyday life, like all of it. I watched it and was feeling some sort of way for a good 5 to 7 days, where I literally was like, I might need to really rethink social media.
For
But the
real?
problem is, we gotta really start trying to the best of our ability, use it for our own benefit. But we need to have our own social media. We need to have our own streams of media, so that we're able to communicate and share information with each other reliably. And it's not what people are feeding us with that they want us to know. But watch The Social Dilemma. It's a really, really interesting documentary. And yeah, I'm just gonna shut up now so you can finish your point. I hope I ain't even made you forget what it was.
No, I still got it, sis.
Go
Because
ahead, finish your
you were
point.
still right there on that point. And going back to having that reliable black source, I was saying Paris mentioned the Chicago Defender. And Chicago Defender was started at a kitchen table. A black man was like, I'm gonna start a newspaper. And it became so big that their writers would go and have sit downs or talk directly to the president of the United States. And this is from the south side of Chicago, Bryant'sville. It sparked the Great Migration, because he was literally like, look, it's space here in Chicago, it's jobs here in Chicago. If y'all want a better life, come to Chicago. Like, it literally sparked the Great Migration. It called for it, and it happened. That's how powerful our voice in our media is, when we do it collectively and come on one accord, right? So that's kind of what I want to do, and what Melanated in America is, because I believe we need our own everything, period. But especially when it comes to media, because that's a tool they use to control. That's the way they shucking and jiving. That's the way they tell us who we are and how we should behave, right? Honestly, if we pay attention to what we listen to and what we allow our children to listen to, what we see and what we allow our children to see, because what they see and what they hear is what they become, especially when there's no contradiction to it in their life. I ain't saying turn up and want them out. Okay, cool. I definitely turn up in once in a while. Okay, yes, but
When I have a babysitter, because my mama young and she out here, well, before COVID, she was never at home. She ain't the traditional granny. And it's like, bring them kids over. Mama got a life, and she'd be like, "No, I got plans the next 4 weekends. You ain't."
catch me on the third Monday from.
That was December, and it's January. How about December? How does that look?
For about 2 hours on
Right,
January 31st of
that's
next
my
year.
mama. That's her. Go ahead, sis. You were saying.
But yeah, but we just got to be mindful because they have done research on us for forever. And that's how we process things as melanated people, through music, through visuals, through dance, through song. That's how we connect and that's how we retain information. So if you're constantly watching visuals that ain't telling you ain't nothing but a drug dealer, prostitute, hoe, that's all you gonna get. That's
Or
all you
the
gonna think
only
you're
way you're gonna
worth.
be successful is by sports, or playing in a professional athlete, and that's it. Yeah.
That's why representation matters and content matters, and that's why like we strive to create content that tell true melanated stories and that put people on, like from restaurant owners to artists to whatever it is. Like, you need to be seen. Black people, melanated people, we need to be seen in all facets that we are in, whether you be a scientist or whatever it is that you do. So like controlling the media in every aspect of media is the goal. That's radio, that's publishing company, that's television, that's all of it. We need to have that control so we can have something, like you said, that we can trust to get our information from. Because right now we just weeding through Facebook trying to figure out what's false or not,
Yeah.
and that's not good enough. I also think like we need to come together before it's time to vote, because we always wait till the last minute. We always wait till the last minute. It'd be like 3 days before early voting start, and we be like, all right, y'all, who we voting for? I think like right now we need to start looking who's running for these things and put together our list of people that's on the same path. And on that list, I said we need to create a what are our deal breakers? What do we want? How do we want it? We need to create a list of the politicians that are running that are speaking directly to us, so that we can't say, oh, it's last minute. Now I got to research a judge. No, this judge locked up 15 people for something that should have been a walk off.
Mm-hmm.
Because judges are important. That's the most of the ballot. I don't know if y'all went to vote, but that is the bulk of the ballot, these judges. And those are the people who have the most control over our day-to-day life. If we step in front of that judge, they got control over our life.
Yeah.
I ain't meeting the president. I ain't never met him. You know what I'm saying? He got control over a lot, but that judge has your whole life in his hands and your family members as well. So we got to start looking at more than just the president, more than just the mayor, more than just the governor, and really start planning ahead. And if we can't find the people that we're looking for, we got to stop just going with these lesser of the evils and literally become that change. If you can't find the person, become that person and run for office. If that's not for you, you better be digging through your friends list and be like, hey, you dope. You feel like running for office?
Don't glide past that, because that is super important to me. That fact. That's probably single-handedly one of the things that has aggravated me throughout this whole process of this election. Is, oh, I'm so sick of people saying Black people vote for the lesser of the two evils. Well, honestly, what choice do we have? But if we're going to keep complaining about us feeling like we have to get the lesser of the evils, let's start really strategizing on how to that not to be our reality.
And early.
And it be the main people that be saying that and pushing that narrative that is not willing to stand up for the community. They're still singling themselves out or separating themselves from us in some way, shape, or fashion. So if you feel that, the system is not for us, what are you willing to bring to help build that system? What are you?
And that's the thing too. Don't just vote. Like, the people who talk the most noise are the ones that go in the box, check off Democrat, and go home and complain.
And don't do nothing.
What are you doing out here? I'm gonna say cheer in these streets. What are you doing? I love y'all. I love every one of y'all, and every face and every person and type of person is needed on this planet. Bet. But what are you doing? Even if you're not the one to go march and protest, because that's not my ministry either.
Not
I'm
my.
not that one. But I'm gonna be the one organizing this thing that's gonna lead to this thing that's gonna lead to, that's me. Okay. Know your lane. Everybody has a lane. But what if we came on one accord and realized that everybody is necessary, and then figure out what we can do to create change in our community? If everybody just did what they could, imagine what this world would look like.
Hmm. I don't think some folks will want to imagine what that would look like. But what, so what is our one accord? In your opinion, what do you feel like is the one accord? I want to hear from you guys watching out there too. What's that one accord? I hear a lot of throwing around the economic standpoint. We need economic independence. Okay.
Absolutely.
How do we achieve that? How do we achieve that? And not only like once we do, how do we sustain that? What is your goals for that? Like, aren't you saying then, like, depending on Trump to give us that economic freedom, if you're voting from him, if you're a black Trump supporter, you're expecting that he's going to give us that economic freedom, that he's going to put us in a position to have that? I need to understand that logic in that. But
I
what
really would enjoy a round table though, because I
I
really want to
really
pick a
feel like
brain.
it's necessary. I think
I
it's
do.
necessary. It is because I really want to have that conversation where I need you to try to express to me why. Like I need to understand, and it's not to even judge. I'm past the judgmental part where I just need to get it because it just doesn't make sense, and I'm trying to fight that hatred inside of me to be like, you're just the traitor, you're just the Uncle Tom, you're that, you're this, you're the coon. What is your thought process? And is it just about you and your family, or is it about all of us? Because that's really part of the problem. Is we're still very separated. We're very it's for me, I'm trying to just worry about me. I'm gonna cover my own butt. Whatever happens to everybody else ain't my problem. And that's why we're constantly divided. That's why we're
And you know
constantly
what?
at the bottom.
It's November. Next month is December. A lot of people celebrate Christmas. If that's your bag, enjoy your Christmas day. But one thing that I think every melanated person on this planet should get down with is Kwanzaa. I'm going to tell you why. Because the one accord that we're talking about is Kwanzaa. It's 7 principles of Kwanzaa. And if each person on this planet lived by each of those 7 principles of Kwanzaa every day of their life, there would be no issues.
Hmm.
Because it's not just my family thing. It's cooperative work and economics. Working together, putting money, pulling funds together, creativity. Like it's all of these beautiful principles that you should live your life by every day, but we celebrate them on those 7 days of Kwanzaa. But literally, those 7 principles is a roadmap to how to live your life and better your community and work better together collectively.
Yeah.
That's the one accord.
Okay.
For me.
So the one accord for you is following the principles of Kwanzaa. I'm gonna turn to the comments here. Just right off the bat, I see Steph saying it takes generational sacrifice to build an economic base. What are we willing to give up now for our future great grandkids? I agree. And he's saying get real life insurance.
Life insurance is
Real
important.
life insurance. I see Andre saying ideally they should keep that same Juneteenth energy for Kwanzaa. I hear you. That's
Facts.
another thing. Like waiting on them to make Juneteenth a holiday.
We make it a holiday.
I mean, where it's a paid holiday. So I'm just gonna be quite honest. So they celebrated Juneteenth for my organization that I work with, where they gave us a half day. I wasn't doing anything. I was look, you can give me the half day. It's Juneteenth. I wasn't doing anything.
I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take your half
But
day.
even the fact that that's a question that we have to ask for the system to acknowledge Juneteenth. We have to ask.
I want us as a people to stop asking for permission to be us and to do anything and to breathe and to live and to love. I want us to stop asking for permission. We need to do it. We don't need approval from nobody.
Just do it.
Just do it. It's like Nike.
Just do it.
Just do it.
That's
We don't need your approval. We don't need it. Not your hand clap, not your nothing.
I'm
We
glad
gotta celebrate us.
that in this conversation some of us are starting to simmer down. I think it's helping. I'm gonna take a look at the map again. I think it's helping too that there's some real promise that there may be a change in presidency. I'm trying not to even speak on that and just yet because ain't nothing's done, but
Either way, can I say that? Because you said this point, and we kind of touched around it a lot in the conversation we've been having. But regardless of what these results may be, what I want everyone to really take away from this conversation is that no matter who's in office, any office,
hmm,
you have control over your life. You have control over your household. You have control over your energy. You have control over your spirit. And you have control over what you put out into the world. Regardless of who's in any office, you can create change every single day of your life by changing your mindset and your behavior. If you want to see the Black community flourish, find your way on how you can help that to happen. Link with a non-for-profit, link with organizations and people that are already doing it, but do something.
do something.
You have power, you have control. And even if the people that we don't want to get into a position is in that position, you still pay their salary. Call, hit a line, and hold them accountable. Send several emails. If your community ain't had lights for a certain amount of time, you need to be on the phone and sending an email every day. You pay that salary. They need to do what you need them to do for your community. Take your power back, regardless of who's in office. Take your power back. That's what I really want people to understand from me in this conversation. Yes, we hope that it ain't 45 no more. We don't want him at all.
I don't want dude. I don't
We
want
dude
him
must
no
go.
more. I want him out. I want him out. I don't. And
Dude has to leave. Okay.
he does. And I want to talk about a point in that because before we end up starting to wrap it up, because I know that if y'all like me, y'all tired. Normally we'll go on and on. I'm tired today. I'm tired. I ain't get much sleep. I ain't had no
You ain't
coffee.
had your coffee.
I ain't had no coffee. The struggle is real, right? But I wanted to note too, I wanted to see how else people felt about one of my biggest anxieties was and I tried to come to peace with it because talking to my mom is starting to, I hope she don't watch this because she gonna be like, who the hell you calling an elder? But she's starting to kind of transition into her eldering.
That's an honor. That's an honor to become an elder. Is an honor.
Talking to her now, I'm starting to feel like I'm talking to the elders. Like she my mama, but I feel like I'm talking to the elders sometimes because I was just talking to her. I'm like, my biggest thing is this fool don't win. These supremacists are going to act a fool. They
Yeah.
are threatening to start a civil war.
Yeah.
They are threatening to attack communities of Black people to avenge their president's loss. Um, and that just makes me sad. That just makes me sad because we didn't destroy shit 4 years ago. There's a lot of Black people that
Any of the times it has happened. Any of the times it has
know,
happened.
why just the sheer hatred. So I found myself having a lot of anxiety centered around that and just wanted to do a check-in because I know while we really wanting him to be out the presidency, that made me kind of wonder like about the protection of our communities.
And I
How do
think that goes back to the concept of having our own everything as well. We need our own first line of defense. Because to be honest, they have one. They have guns. They are training their kids to shoot guns at early ages. But it's a faux pas if a Black person does it.
Yep.
That's that propaganda. and we eating it. We drinking the Kool-Aid. Stop. We need a line of defense. They have one. If stuff go down right now, you think it'll be equal?
Mhm.
That's what I'm saying. We have to start
I'm proud to
working.
say though that Black folks have accounted for most of the vast majority of gun sales in the past.
We getting
Gun
there.
sales, and carry licenses and FOIA cards and such. So it has increased, and I think that it's done so as a result of trying to prepare for what if it goes that way. But just the fact that we still got to worry about massacres in 2020.
I mean, taking it back to Lovecraft Country. I know we love us some Lovecraft Country.
We
That
gonna talk
episode
about
of
that.
Tulsa, they were ready. Our ancestors were ready. They pulled up and they pulled out. Like they were ready. And the fact that we have a history of privileged white people having the audacity and the wherewithal to grab guns, rifles, or whatever else they had available to attack an unarmed whole community or individual, woman, man, child. And the fact that they still have that same audacity in 2020 and it's not being addressed is ridiculous. The fact that people say racism does not exist in 2020 in spite of Trump and all of the outlandish acts of privileged white people all over the country that has been videotaped now, because they've been doing it, but now they're being videotaped, is ridiculous. And so when you look, oh, and this is what I was starting to say earlier with that map. Do you see how much red is still there? And like you said, Illinois is basically red with a blue dot in the middle. Like, you can't tell me that as a Black person, you can feel safe traveling this country like sundown town still don't exist.
Hmm.
You can't tell me that.
It's a lot
Something
of
has to change.
it's a lot of hate, and it was undercover for a little bit. It never was gone. It just was undercover,
Ever.
and Trump has allowed passage for it to be loud in your face, um, more than it's been in decades. More than it's been in decades. And when people say, "Oh well, every politician is racist," well, every politician ain't fanning the flames, ain't encouraging this
Stand up in arms. Stand by.
stand what they stand back down and stand by,
Stand by.
you know, not encouraging this
And
behavior.
we know him and his family got ties to KKK. We didn't seen him in the hood. Like, you got the white hood in your closet, bro. We know. You can't just outright say KKK is bad. Why hasn't any president ever put the KKK on the terrorist list? You want to talk about terrorism when it's proven fact, the things that they have done on American soil. Why are they not terrorists? No
Well, I
president has.
guess they get supposedly for
Ain't they a non for profit?
well, but I mean, I guess dude Trump dude was trying to now do that to pull in some votes. Just the same as he released a sprinkle of black people from prison, where really it was just setting the pathway for him to release his friends.
He just wanted his homies out.
That's it. But it would be too obvious if you didn't sprinkle anything else in there. And
Look, black folks, I'm helping you. You like waving his hand over here, like, yes, guys, yes, but over here, you doing the most. But
like,
that's that propaganda piece. They get to put out what they want you to know. They get to make you feel that you're lesser. They get to shuck and jive, and for the most part, we believe it,
we do, because
which is the unfortunate part.
we want to, we trying to hold on to wherever we can instead of each other. Literally, we can't hold on to each other. So before we head out tonight, I want to give everybody an opportunity to just take a deep breath. I hope everybody's calm a little bit. I'm still struggling. I ain't had no coffee. I'm still struggling. But Natalie and I definitely wanted to talk about this in hopes that we can try and understand and process our feelings a bit. This is such a big topic, so much more to discuss, and I expect for there to be even more to discuss once the results comes in and we really have a clear understanding of what direction we're heading in as a country. So I look forward to, and I'm going to put this out there. If you are willing to talk about the election and be a part of that roundtable, please reach out to us so that we can try and get that roundtable structured and get it set up.
Some
And
Trump supporters.
Trump supporters, if you're watching this, if you are a Black Trump supporter, this is not a space, this is not a chance for me to attack you or Natalie to attack you. We want to really have a real open discussion as to why you voted for Trump and why you feel that he was the best decision for you. Um, and hopefully you guys feel comfortable talking about it. And if you are not a Trump supporter, I hope you feel comfortable with being a part of that roundtable enough to talk to the other side, because really we're gonna have
with facts.
with
For
facts
on both sides. Like it's real easy to just come out the pocket with some emotion and it doesn't make sense and yelling and all of that. But I think if both parties come with their version of facts to speak to each other, if not just understanding, some middle ground can kind of happen. And if you come with enough facts, you may even change some minds. So
we may get some common ground where we need it. We may just get to a point of agreeing to disagree, right? But then just deciding that moving forward, we're going to figure out how to join forces and do it together collectively and not be against each other, which is the ultimate goal. It's the ultimate goal at the end of the day. I mean, whether Trump ends up pulling this out and becoming, getting a second term, it's his last term. He only gets 4 more years and that's it. So, well, then what? What's the aftermath of that? What do we do if we don't get Biden? What do we do when we do have Biden? We really, really, really have to start focusing on those things because they matter, and not just feeling accomplished if he does get the presidencies. That we did our part. No, we didn't. We didn't. We
there's
had
work to be done.
it's work to be done, and how do we accomplish that? How do we get on that one accord? I think that was a big problem for having the different celebrities reaching out to Trump. I'm gonna try not to go into that because then that would set me off. But just having them do so, but it not having like a real collective ness in it. Like it didn't. There was no Black woman perspective in it whatsoever.
It was just who he could get. But that goes back to the point too that we can't keep expecting privileged Black people to save us against a society and a system that now benefits them.
That benefits them.
So they not gonna mess up what they got. They
For
living
us.
good now.
For little old us. Yeah.
And the thing is it's for me, and I think for us all, it shouldn't be about the amount of money in someone's bank account based on how they should be treated. We should all be treated with respect and dignity, whether you a bum on the street or you in the White House. And I think if we really took control of our education and educated ourselves not only on politics and how it works, but on, again, hand selecting the people. I'm going to use Harold Washington as an example. I love to use Harold Washington as an example because he didn't want to run. He was just like, look, y'all get these many signatures. I do it. He didn't think they could do it. They did it. When I tell you other people dropped out of the race and was like, you got it, Harold. Clean dropped out of the race so that this man could do it. And he did it. For the time he was in there, he created change, and he was an amazing, amazing beacon of light for the people. That's the energy we have to have. It's not about you being owned. It's not about your salary. It's not about none of that. It's about putting the people in office that are for the people.
Yeah.
And so if that's all of us coming on one accord, and if you thought you was going to run and then we all sat down and said at a round table discussion that this person is the one that's hitting all the points, why can't we all back that person? Even if that means you dropping out. Because look, it might be you next time. But we have to make sure that we come together on one accord and really start selecting the people that need to be in office and not just going for whoever they put in front of us. And that's re-educating ourselves, educating the young people, and then really coming together as a collective. That's what it's going to take for us to shift the system in a way that could work for us and really change our communities, because we can do that on our own. We just got to be willing enough to do it,
and make
because it's not going to be easy.
Willing to sacrifice.
Right, because it's not going to be easy.
It's not.
We have to do it. If we keep waiting on somebody to save us, baby, get y'all right back here in 20 more years.
For real, because it's not going to happen that way. We're going to have to save ourselves. In the end of the day, we're going to have to save ourselves.
And we always have.
We've survived.
We always have.
We've survived, but we haven't saved ourselves yet.
I'll say this, because we still got some saving to do. We ain't out the heat. Okay. Right. We still on the fire. All right. It's on like medium high right now. Okay.
We're simmering.
It ain't on full blast. We got a little bubble popping. Okay. But every like elevation that we have, right? And I love our ancestors. I'm gonna say it a couple more times because I'm not one of them people that be like, I ain't my ancestors, baby. I'm my ancestors' legacy. Okay. Yes, I am. Our ancestors did everything they could at the point that they could to get us to where we are now. Now we just got to make sure that we do what we can to get to the next level for the next generation. And if we all come together on one accord right now, we can do a whole lot. Because we got a whole lot that our ancestors didn't have. They couldn't text everybody and say, hey, we meeting up here at this time. Do you know how hard it was to get the word out in the 1800s?
For real. Birds. You gotta wait for the
Negro spirituals. Like everything. They had the quilts. Send this to Mama Mary. Like
all of that.
They figured it out though. Do you know how easy it is for us to really get on one accord and make some change right now in 2020? But they did it in their time. And each like generation, they helped the government and whoever else. Look, Harriet Tubman was a spy in the army to make sure we got freedom. Like every step of the way, they took it up an extra notch, right?
Yeah.
Look where we are now and what we have at our disposal. If they can do that then, imagine what we can do right now today. If only we knew we were slaves.
We're gonna close on that note, because that there. We're gonna close on that note and be looking out for a follow-up, hopefully when we can have that round table. But next week, come and join us. We're gonna be talking about feminine sexuality and really discussing how this is a generational curse, right? And trying to change that narrative on us being sexual beings and that we do have the space to do that, because there's this idea that it isn't possible, that we're built a particular way. We absolutely are not, but there are some things that influence. I see you over there.
You see me? I'm working on my sexual energy.
All the aura.
Okay.
But we're gonna talk about all of that, like how to get those sexual vibes going. Why women are looked at as not, being sexual beings, and they really are. So we're going to talk about that and align that with some of the generational curses such as patriarchy, etc., that influence that. So I hope that you guys can absolutely join us again next week live at 8:00. And then proceeding after that, we're hoping to have, I'm going to put it out there, we haven't solidified this topic yet, but also be looking for a schedule coming out from We Gonna Talk, where it's gonna have a real understanding of the shows to come. So if you guys are really interested in coming on, you have ample time to put your ducks in a row and come on and join us. But following that episode, and next Wednesday after that Wednesday, we're hoping to have a roundtable of men that want to talk about some of the things that they don't talk about as men, and being honest. So look out for more information on that topic. And if you are a man that feels comfortable with talking about some of the issues that men struggle with and don't talk about but need to talk about, please contact us on Facebook. You can contact
Yes.
Natalie
Come on, gods.
you can contact me personally, email through our social media page. We are on Instagram and Twitter, so you can also message us through there, or you can email us at owwegontalk@gmail.com. I hope you guys take it easy, stay safe out there, not just against bigotry, but also against COVID, because it is certainly climbing out there. So just be very careful, keep your loved ones and yourself safe, and we hope to see y'all next week. We love y'all. All right,
Take
y'all.
back y'all power
Just
in
take it back.
every form.
Take it back. Take it back. Good night, y'all.
Night.